Welcome back to another episode of the ABC Music Talk podcast. We return once again to the lifestyle category, taking a look at a subject which I know from my time in the music industry has been a minor issue for me personally, but I've also seen others struggle with, and that is of alcohol. I wanted to talk about the role it plays in day-to-day life, not just the addiction side of it, but also how it affects performance during the day, and of course the attraction to it as a social lubricant for evening activities. But first, a quick reminder of my sponsor Rota, and you'll note I've taken the word-for-word transcription from Rota CEO Dermot Maloney's elevator pitch from the last episode, which is definitely more concise. Rota is for artists, managers, labels, or anyone in the music industry who needs to create video content for promotion or monetization. Rota makes it fast, easy and inexpensive to do all of that in one place. Head to www.abcmusic.co and click the Rota logo on the homepage to access a 10% off discount for the service. So back to the show. My guest in this episode is someone who I've not only known and worked with, but have shared countless life experiences with over the last 20 years. We met when he was working for a distribution company who were looking after a record label I used to own, and very quickly we started what became one of the first digital distribution companies in the UK. For many years afterwards we worked together and became direct competitors, but always remained friends. Recently though, we got talking about a lifestyle change he'd made, which I've seen various people do of late, which is to lose alcohol from his life. So let's get started. Welcome to the show, Lee Morrison.
Thank you.
Obviously I know your backstory, but if you could, for the benefit of my listeners, just kind of like I like these stories of people, how they got into the music industry, because I think they're always unique, they're always a bit different, and yours is definitely similar to that. So just give us a little bit about how you got into it, some of the things that you've done over your career.
Yeah. So I originally left home at 16 years old to join Her Majesty's Services and become a soldier, and in that time I discovered the land of raving and became a very prolific raver, enjoying the music as much as the next kindred soul next to me. Yeah. And then when I left the army, the only thing I wanted to do at that time was to work in music. It was in my head, in my passion, in my blood, and so I scrolled through the DJ yearbooks. At this time I thought I was going to be the next big DJ. Found the first obviously, and discovered a distribution company called Amato, who I called. I basically went in and had an interview, and then they employed me. I worked for them for free.
As is the world of independent music. The idea of getting a job isn't always an actual job.
The 2-month internship for free, paying to go to work without even food for fuel or food, which was great.
Classic.
And then I started putting records in a box in a warehouse, a wet warehouse. It was disgusting. It was cold.
Literally a wet warehouse with like rising damp.
It was disgusting. It was amazing. Cold. It was wet. It was in Ladbroke Grove. It was dark and dingy, and it was just really wasn't a nice place to work. But you know what? Myself and the other guy who worked on there have gone on, and we've done what I think is quite good things. And we, learning from the bottom up is laying a foundation. So I look back at those days with fondness.
Kind of a version of pushing the postcart around a big office somewhere, right? It's the same sort of like.
Well, this was the next role, right? Driving around. So I went from there to driving around London, selling records into the shops, which is delivering the newest, hottest releases and whatever. So
was that a sales job as much as a van driver job, or did the sales job already be done?
It's a sales job because you're trying to sell it, because it was a commission based role, so you're trying to sell more units and you're trying to push your buddies' records into places, and you've over-ordered on certain amounts of stock. So yeah, it's a sales job, but at the end of the day the shops know what they want, they listen to you. You can only push stuff so much, and if you push it so hard you get it back. Right. It's the age-old analogy of good stuff sells and bad stuff doesn't. Moving on from there, I was still in this kind of game when we met.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing that, and then got into, obviously we set up Alex Lee, running record labels.
which is an imaginative title.
I have no idea how we came up with that name.
Do you remember though, like we spent, I don't know how long trying to come up with a name for that company, and then we just sort of, I forget who came up with the name now.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was me.
I'm sure. I mean, as it was such a good name, yeah, probably it was you.
Yeah.
Well, I had a friend at university called Alex Lee, and I think that kind of for me meant that it felt familiar.
I think actually I said it, and then you said about your friend, and then we actually like, yes, this is great, let's do it. And we thought it was so cool when we were mapping out our world domination on our serviette
on a serviette
in a bar,
pub,
drinking.
Well, there you go.
Leading into the chain, but yeah. So from there, and then obviously we got into the digital space, and then we, here we are at this day. 20 years, did you say?
I mean, right?
It's a long time.
That's got to be accurate, isn't it?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it's probably not far off.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was. I think I had my label started that in January 2001.
But that means we would have met when I was 1. So how does that work?
What? Just because? Wait. So for my listeners, there's a thing here where Lee looks annoyingly much younger than me, but in actual years, I am very much his junior. But that doesn't seem to help when you meet people for the first time, right? So I think, so it's 19, 20 years, something like that.
It's a long time.
It's certainly longer
to put up with each other
than I
and to
planned
still
to
be
know.
friends. I would never have imagined it when you walked in that door with your lonely little record label.
Well, it was a little lonely. It didn't do so well, but never mind. Cool. Okay, but I mean, so I think probably of late you're probably best known for being at a company called Believe.
Yeah,
I guess that follows the digital distribution sort of.
Yeah. I ended up, after working at Skin and Loaded Records, being the head of digital. I ended up at Believe. Took the business from, that's what I say, an unknown French brand to being pretty much one of the independent market leader now in the UK. They're doing great guns, and I didn't end up staying there. 3 years ago I left. And then today I have my own company called Monochrome.
That was my next question. So tell us what you're up to at the moment, and please plug away because the company's rather innovative.
I need no.
A born salesman.
Exactly. Basically we're building rights management technology. The rights management technology is called Rights Hub, and it comes from my overview of the industry as a whole, of people needing to take responsibility for their rights, their catalogue, their data, storing everything in one place, and basically trying to combat people acting outside of term and copyright, people not getting paid, and basically just creating tools for anybody that owns rights, that's artists, labels, managers, and through to catalogue companies. And that's where we are right now. We're still in startup mode. We have just gone into full-on sales pitch. The technology, I would say it, but it is fantastic. And what we built from a musical background with really good developers surpasses and is much different to anything else in the market. So yeah, I'm very excited about it actually. And after when you leave a job that you've put so much into for such a long time, I was at Believe for 6.5 years and it was my life, it really was. To leave that and to go in kind of acrimonious terms to do nothing overnight is tough. It's dark, as you know.
100%, yeah. I had a very similar experience. In fact, I'm thinking about doing a strand of this, something along the lines of kind of like reinvention, because there's that thing where you get known by the company that you're working with, right? For a while you were Lee from Believe. For a lot of people, that's who you were. Same for me with Ingrooves. Anyway.
I think the strand of, I think there's one thing that you could talk about is the industry needs to have a responsibility for people that are discarded and left and maybe not in a good way. So you do have things like the Musicians Union that look after artists, etc. Artists and performers. But there isn't really any kind of trade body or anybody looking out for the people in this industry, and we're meant to be one big community. The music industry, for me, has always been about community and everyone working together for a common goal, even if we're working different records. So, you know, maybe there could be a strand on looking after people.
I think that was in my head as well for at a certain point. I agree. Okay, so let's talk about alcohol as the kind of the thing. So the first question is, you know, how long have you been sober?
Close to 5 months.
Okay, that's pretty impressive, given that we just had New Year's.
Yeah, you know what? My litmus test was ADE, so Amsterdam Dance Event. Been going now, I don't know, 20 years or something.
Yeah, right.
Every single year on the first night, no, we're not going to do that. No, we're not going to do that. Next thing you know, you're into a 4-day session, and it's just the way it's been for years. So my litmus test was ADE. I got through ADE drinking 0 alcohol beer, which is.
Well, I'd seen you've been posting about that, and that's clearly a way you found that made it easier to kind of.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, like being in a bar, right?
Absolutely.
It's that habit aspect, isn't it?
I don't know if it's a habit, it's a camaraderie. I mean, you know, you don't work in music a lot of the time for the money. You work in it for, you know, the peers, the people around you. You know, I like to go out. I still go out. I went out on Saturday night. I just made this... and do you know what? The thing that I never thought would happen, obviously, I got a house in Valencia over a year ago now.
Yeah.
I never ever thought that would be a place where I can stop drinking. Me going to Spain, you know, my parents were in Spain in the winter, going to Spain on holidays, my lifetime affiliation with Ibiza and being in and out of there, living there, etc., etc. Never in a million years did I think it would be easy to stop drinking in Spain.
Yeah.
But every single bar you go in, they have a 0 alcohol beer.
Amazing.
Yeah, and
well, because I don't know if you and I have ever talked about this before, but I mean, you know, in the UK there has been, or at least in the past, been a problem with people kind of binge drinking, getting to that 11 o'clock cut off, and being absolutely out of their heads. Whereas in Spain, I often find that people they often drink for longer, like as in into the late evening, but they don't seem to kind of get into that crazy off their head kind of.
I had exactly the same conversation with somebody in Valencia on Saturday night,
right.
And it was exactly the same thing. And the Spanish kids and the people going out, the clubs don't open until 2 a.m.
Right.
2 a.m. 1 a.m. So, you know, they might go out later, or they go out and have some food, they drink with moderation, you don't see them rolling in the streets and everything else. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's people still
of course, yeah,
going out and getting hammered, but it's not ingrained in the culture like it is here. And going back to the bars shutting, you know, Sundays, you used to go to the pub would only open between 12 and 3 on a Sunday. So you go with your dad, you go down to, personally I would go, we'd play pool, he'd get tanked up, you know, and then we go home, have a roast dinner, and then collapse for the rest of the day. Yeah. Or the pub would be open from 7 till 10 on a Sunday night.
Right.
In the week it's open, you know, the bars used to open at 7 o'clock till 11 o'clock at night, 10, or whatever. So people would cram it in, which I think was always a problem. And so I think that ingraining that in the culture, and then people would drink at home because they couldn't drink in a pub.
Yeah.
They would then be buying alcohol, and alcohol is around you everywhere you go. From the day you're born, you know, unless you're living with parents that don't drink, there's a bottle of wine on the side, there's a bottle of whiskey in the cupboard, there is beers in the fridge, and it is this socially accepted. I'm never going to preach,
no,
because this isn't a preaching thing, but it is a socially accepted drug that kills more people per year than all of the illegal drugs put together, which I've now found out in my reading. I can read. I didn't tell you that.
No, well, I was wondering whether they were audiobooks, because you know that's not reading.
It's not real.
I just it's a different type of book. So I mean that was not necessarily my next question. In fact, but we could go to it now if you want. But what triggered the decision for you? Because you've done Dry January for a good few years. Like you've always kind of like dabbled in this kind of awareness of your own, like, you know.
I think I dabbled in and out of drinking because I'm an excessive. And I think I'm either training really hard or I'm partying really hard. And that's kind of, I find a struggle to get the middle ground, which I always have had a struggle with this. And I would like to follow a more Buddhist line of middle ground thinking. And I'd probably quite like to be able to go out and have a glass of wine or, a beer. But I just don't find it very easy to do it. So I'm quite excessive. So I would stop in January all the time. Never used to drink in January at all. Then last year, was it last year or the year before? I'm also a shareholder in a conference called Brighton Music Conference, electronic based music conference in Brighton. Last year, I decided to not drink from the January right the way through to the conference because I needed to focus on the conference. Right. And the year before, I was a bit stupid and I did my first night.
Classic. That is a classic conference mistake. I mean, I do it every year for every conference. Right? I'm terrible for it.
Yeah.
You get all excited. You do your first round of meetings.
Holiday, yeah.
Well, the thing is, we all egg each other on, right? So we're doing the meetings during the day, and then we carry on for a few drinks before dinner. We all plan to go off and have dinner. Sometimes you don't, which means you haven't eaten properly, and you carry on because the only real venue is the bar.
Yeah.
And so it often leads into a sort of a 2 a.m. But it feels like work.
But then the next day you got such a hangover, you got to have a drink to get rid of the hangover.
100%.
So it's a cycle.
I've done that with you on many occasions.
Yeah. So last year I did 4 months. I got that out of the way, and then I hit it hard. The night the conference finished, I hit it really hard. So I knew I could do it anyway, and I knew that I didn't have to drink.
Yeah.
And I just, anyway, in the half of last year, I'd been somewhere. I'm living in Spain, and I'm just then, one day I'm sitting, watching English TV in Spain, sitting on the sofa with the worst hangover. The hangovers were getting worse. And don't get me wrong, I didn't drink every day. I wasn't an alcoholic. I wasn't drinking, or I was a binge drinker. And so I was just sat there. I thought, you know what? Beep this. I'm just gonna jack it in. I'm just not gonna bother.
It's just a switch in your head.
Yeah, I'd sat with somebody in Ibiza earlier in the year who was drinking 0.0s. I've got another friend we've had some legendary parties. He's a massive caner, and he had packed in drinking. And I sat with this other friend who was drinking 0.0s. And so this other friend, I messaged her and I just said, she is very affluent, really lovely people, really just, got a lot in the world, and she's decided to take alcohol out of her life, and so I just messaged her and I was chatting to her about it, and I'm thinking about just checking it in and blah blah blah, and she advised me this app to use.
Well, that's a good segue into my next question because I know when we spoke about it originally, you were telling me about the app and I think a book as well, maybe that you'd read.
Yeah.
You actually can read. It's a real thing. So perhaps can you share the names of those and some other things?
Yeah, so the app was just called Quit, and I've done quite a bit of yoga and sort of mindfulness and headspace and whatever. So this app called Quit, I think the guy is called Andrew Johnson.
Right.
It has a picture of a guy with a bald head on it, and it's on the App Store. It's just called Quit, and he's a Scottish guy, and you just download it, and I never pay for apps. I don't like paying for apps, but this one, it's like £3. I thought, it's been recommended. I'm going to
invest in yourself.
I'm going to invest in myself for £3. So I downloaded that, and also in the course of chatting to people, I was advised to read a book called The Naked Mind, and The Naked Mind is again about it's not like telling you that alcohol is bad and that's what it is, because people know that anyway, but you still continue to do it. It's just outlining how the industry works and some of the things. It's a good read anyway. It's a good read even if you don't want to quit drinking. So this app at first, going back to the app, it's a bit of a commitment because it's 30 odd minutes every day. So what I would do is I just started taking it as a meditation, and I would just go take some lunch, because it's a great way to get me away from my desk, because I'm terrible. I could go to my desk at 8 a.m. and leave at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
So it was a really good way to get me away from the desk. So I just started listening, and all you do is you just listen to this guy talking. You go into a kind of, he relaxes you. You're lying on your bed. You go into a kind of, and he's tapping into your your subconscious, and what he's doing is removing the association that alcohol is okay, and and that it is acceptable in a very nice way.
Right. Non-preachy way that will kind of...
Yeah, he's not preaching, he's just...
Is he giving you kind of like facts and things like that?
No, it's just... do you know, I haven't done it for... no,
you obviously felt that you don't need it.
No, I occasionally, if I feel that I need a top-up, I go back to it. But no, he's not preaching, he's just... maybe he could be construed as a little bit preachy, but no, he's not. He's just he's just telling you that it's not okay and that you don't need to drink. I think it's more the thing that you don't need to, not you mustn't.
Right.
So I think that was the thing. Cause you know me, I don't like being told what to do by anybody.
No, I had noticed over the years.
So that and reading the book with it just seemed to work, and you had to do it every day for 30 days. Mm-hmm. And it's just worked for me. It's just made me realise the advertising. We have to think about why alcohol was first drank. Mm-hmm. And alcohol was first drank so that you weren't drinking shitty water.
That's an explicit flag.
Shipping water. So you weren't drinking shipping water, and so you weren't drinking bad water, which is where this originally come from. So that you could drink not really, but these are the sort of histories of it. Sure. And now it's glamorized, and everything's in coloured lights and nice bottles, and and the industry in itself, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling anybody to stop drinking. Yeah. I've stopped drinking because it's for me. Not for anybody else. And going out and having a good crack with your mates and whatever else, people can do what they want. But it is, if you look out and you look in a bar window and you see those premium brands, they are all in lights. Mm-hmm.
I've just opened a bar, Lee, with some of our mutual friends.
I understand you have as well.
Yeah,
and you're stocking non-alcoholic beers. So
that was and you can ask John. That was one of my first questions, and I told him which. I went with the Heineken one.
Yeah. But you've only got one.
That's. I think we have the Brewdog one as well.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I think we've got the Brewdog and the Heineken Zero.
Yeah, there's some brilliant ones in Brighton.
We have a limited kind of storage behind the bar.
In Brighton now, it's very progressive, and I found one the other day. Like an ale type thing. I'm telling you that. If you didn't know,
I think it's a good meantime one as well.
There's some great ones out there. There's some great. Also, there is some good red wine.
It used to be Caliber from Guinness, and it's just like the most awful drink ever.
There was another one called Barbican or something as well. But they tasted like not very nice. It's like a malty, horrible.
Yeah, just do awful things to your stomach, and and I think that feels like with the introduction of J2Os behind the bar, and there is more than just the kind of the Coca-Cola out the tap, which always tastes awful, right?
Yeah, and J2Os are just a sugary. You can't.
But there's options, right? You can kind of throughout your evening you can have a few different types of drinks, and because it's not alcohol, you can mix them.
I think the thing with a fake beer is what I call a fake beer is, the one thing. When you go to a bar, or when I was talking to people and people would say, do you want to drink? I said, I don't drink anymore. They're just they look at you as though you're mad.
Yeah.
And if I walked in to a bar and I started jacking up heroin on the table or chopping out lines of cars, smoking crack or whatever, people would be like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But if you walk into a bar and then you say, no, I'm not drinking, it's the other way around. People are like, what are you doing?
Yeah, why would you be in here if you're not?
Why are you not drinking?
Yeah.
And this is, this is one of the things.
That's a big problem. It's a huge problem.
Yeah.
And also I think I'm sure you found this. You walk into a restaurant or into a bar, and the comment is, what do you want to drink? And the assumption is a beer or a glass of wine or perhaps a whiskey or something beforehand, right? And so, yeah, I mean, even when it's like kind of a sparkling water, people are going, oh, I'm going to have a glass of wine. Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
No, you don't understand. I want a glass of sparkling water. And there's that confusion. It's like,
I've actually had people telling me, you're not drinking with me if you're not drinking.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm just like, no problem. It's your loss. I'm better company when I'm sober.
Yeah. No, but this comes into kind of the social aspects, like the social acceptance of it. And that's definitely for anyone who feels like they need to give it up, because I don't think it's necessary for everyone. Not everybody has that kind of like extreme. Some people are great with moderation. But certainly, it's the social aspect of it.
I think it's not about a need to give it up, or well, it might be for some people. The books all say this, and nobody really knows why some people get addicted and why some people don't.
Yeah.
But addiction can be, you are definitely having a beer on a Friday night.
Did you ever feel addicted at any point?
No, I just found not addicted, because I know that I can go and not have one for however long.
Yeah.
But my end game was always, even when I had a month off or 4 months off or whatever, I knew when I was having the next beer.
Right.
With it being so long.
Right. So and I guess that was a story you could tell those people that were saying, "Are you not having a beer?" And you could say, "No, I'm not drinking for a moment until this point in time because I've either got a lot on, or it's dry January, or like there was kind of something you could hang it around."
Yeah.
So I don't want this to turn into a therapy session. I'm just but I guess what I'm trying to do is ask those questions that perhaps others are either running into themselves. Like, how do I deal with these situations? And so
there are so many people that when I'm out and that now that I'm talking to, and they are honestly all of the time like, oh, do you know what? I am going to stop drinking. I really want to stop drinking. I've just got this next week. I've just got that next week. And I think that was the other big thing. You've always just got something else. Yeah. I've got a big circle of mates. I've got all stuff going on with work. I've always got something else going on.
There's a wedding, there's a birthday, there's
always an excuse to have a drink. And every single function, in Amsterdam this year, I said to an association that I'm on the board of, or was, that they must supply. We're talking about mental health, we're talking about well-being, we're talking about looking after people in the industry. Mm-hmm. I said, you need to provide non-alcoholic beers for all the people that don't drink at these events now, because it's getting more and more.
Right.
Were they there? No. Were they hell? And, it's things like that where you could go to a bar, and I was told, that we didn't have budget. I'm like, but you've got budget to spend for wine and beers for
and
200 people.
Stuff is much cheaper.
Not always, but it's about the same for the bottles of beer.
Bottles of beer, right?
Yeah. So excuse it. There's always an excuse anyway. There's always an excuse to not drink or to drink. Sorry. So I think the big thing for me was just like, you know what, do it on a different day. Don't go 1st of January, I'm not drinking for a month. I mean, my date was the 11th of the month, I think. I mean, there was just nothing to hang on. I just literally said, right, do you know what? That's it.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some of the benefits. So 5 months, which is, I think, long enough to start feeling some of the benefits. I've got kind of 3 things written down here: productivity, health, and energy levels. I mean, kind of, can you talk about any of the things you've experienced?
Yeah, well, I've always been quite active anyway, and my energy levels were definitely better, but because I'm so busy at work, I feel like I'm counteracting it with stress at the moment.
Yeah, right. I mean, just so my listeners understand, Lee's always been quite hyperactive, I think it's fair to say.
I think the benefits are, so recently I had a huge problem. I'd just gone to press with the launch of our new version of Right Hub, and my server company for my website had a massive outage, some kind of power outage. The websites went down. This was a day after we sent out the press releases.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So normally you crack on, you do what you can. You're so annoyed that at the end of the day, right team, we're going to the pub, we'll go for a beer.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're 10 beers in. Next day, you're hungover to hell. You can't do it. So no drinking, focused, got the thing finished, got it sorted out, had to wait the next day. Next day, a couple of other little bits done, bang. Mm-hmm. Huge stress. Next day, right as rain, job sorted.
Yeah, right.
This is a massive, massive boost to me. So I think you and I discussed this. The benefits, most successful people that I know and most people that run big businesses don't drink.
Yeah.
You know, because it takes away from your focus, because your focus is on going to the pub at the end of the day, rather than, you know. So this is a benefit for me. Focus, as my old boss used to say, if you're listening, Dennis, focus, focus, focus.
Yeah, he used to say that
all the time.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it's true, and so it gives me a really good focus. I think that's good. I'm spending more time with my kids and my family. Yeah. I'm playing much more golf. My handicap is plummeting, and this is since I've stopped drinking. Oh, wow. All of the things, my mind, my creative process in what I'm doing is much clearer. But often I'll think of loads of things that I think I could do in the city, and then I get it all down. But I can narrow it down and be a lot more
like specific and fine.
I can just take all of those ideas and then work out which ones are going to be the good ideas and which ones are crap, much quicker.
All right, okay.
So yeah, I think, I mean, 100%. When you grow up, I grew up in an environment where alcohol was always around. I started drinking at a very early age. I didn't really know any different. You know, being a soldier, being in the music, going out raving, you know, all the stuff, always drinking. You know, the difference now is just staggeringly different. To be honest, it is. You know, don't get me wrong. The stresses are still there. Everything is still the same, and occasionally, I mean, I would love to reach for a glass of wine because I love a really nice glass of red wine. And I was gonna
say, do you like? Because like, for me, it's whiskey, but wine also. Like, there's a taste aspect to it, which I guess is always going to be very tricky to replicate in a non-alcoholic format. I know they are getting better, but like, do you
can't get a red wine.
You can't. Right?
No. But I actually think it's all. You think about the first day that you drank whiskey. Did you like that whiskey? No.
No, because it was Bell's and it was awful.
Okay, but even if you drank the best Glenfiddich that you really now think you really, really, really like, and it's really nice.
This sounds like this might be coming from that app.
This is coming from the book.
Yeah, the book.
But we train ourselves. It's like smoking. If you smoke a cigarette, the first time you smoke a cigarette, I remember the first time I smoked a cigarette, like properly, and inhaled it all at school. I puked. I went home from school. My mom thought I was so ill she put me to bed.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was disgusting.
Did you get a day off school the next day?
Not the next day. I was fine the next day. Funny enough. But we train our bodies to do this stuff. You're training your body to do stuff all of the time, or whether that's poison or whether that's good. And you can train your body to, and I actually think now that potentially, I don't think the taste would be as good as what I think it would be.
Yeah, okay.
You know, but the smell is nice.
Yeah, right.
I sat at a dinner party recently, and it was the first time since I'd stopped drinking.
Yeah.
And actually, the sitting in a house and sitting around with friends at the table and they're all drinking wine, that was the hardest point I've had up to now. Not going out and smelling the nice aroma.
Well, but that is part of it, right? I mean, when you go wine tasting, part of it is the smell as much as it is the taste.
It is. Yeah. So I smelt it in the glass, shook it around.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, I left it.
Yeah, well done. That's pretty good. I mean, I haven't got this as a question, but I should have written this down. I mean, do you think you're ever going to? Like, are you worried that if you were to have, say, that one glass of wine at, say, a good restaurant or something like that, and somebody's got the best bottle that you've ever seen, and you're like, do you know what, I just want a small glass. Do you think you'd be able to do that? Or would you want to do that? Or for you, is that too much of a kind of going back on this lifestyle change?
Well, you know me, I'm stubborn. So I'd feel like, I maybe feel like I was letting myself down.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think ever is a long, I don't know. Right now, I just don't want to. I wouldn't go. I know right now that even if I did have a glass of wine or a glass of champagne, or whatever, there's no way I would go back to drinking, like going out and drinking 6 pints, watching the football. It's just not. My whole agenda with alcohol has changed. So maybe, maybe I might at some point, but I really just don't need it. Life is, for me, much better
without,
clearer, calmer, and I'm not missing anything.
Yeah.
If anything, I'm getting more. I think the big. We're banging on a lot about drink. I know this is what this talks about, but the big thing for me that I always think now is the reward. So going back to what I said before about when I was having time off, the reward was always the drink at the end. So if I was on a month off or 2 months, the reward now is not having the drink. The reward is next day when I don't have a hangover and I haven't had a drink. And the reward is and it sounds so cliche. The reward is every day I'm not having a drink, and that to me is so rewarding.
That's quite like a big mental shift, isn't it?
It's phenomenal. And
again, like sort of there is that thing of everybody looks forward to their Friday night because that's when they don't have work the next day, so it means that they can have the hangover. Which is mental when you like
absolutely
break it down.
So I can't wait for Friday night to go out and poison myself so bad that Saturday I'm going to sit and waste a whole day sitting on the sofa, filling myself full of crap food because the only one thing I have been eating a bit too much sugar since I've stopped drinking.
Right. Because that often when you give up something, you often overcompensate with something else, or at least that's what I've seen a lot of people end up doing.
I seem to have been.
There's been like some sweets or something creeping in there that you wouldn't have normally had.
Yeah, I don't know. I just seem to have been having like little treats at night. but I did lose. But do you know another benefit? I dropped in the first few months. I dropped about 7 kilos.
Amazing.
I'm back boxing again, I'm training again, I'm out on the bike, I'm doing a big round, I'm doing a charity cycle ride for the charity that last night a DJ saved my life. I've just... do you
want to give the charity a bit of a plug there?
Last night a DJ saved my life. It's a charity that I've worked and helped out over the years. I did the Ride London for them, raised quite a lot of money a few years ago. Obviously I've been quite busy, so I took my half the ball, but this year I'm going out. I've actually just self-funded a well in Uganda for through Drop to Drop and last night a DJ. I bought it. It's a couple of grand. It's a lot of money, but at the same time, what is fresh water for people?
That's amazing.
There's also a school out there that we're working with. That Johnny from last night a DJ. They've just plastered it all inside. We're going to be driving some awareness for that, getting some musical instruments, some books, helping out and. I want to get out there with my kids and let them see that life isn't all about Xbox and
that would be amazing.
Well that's why I'm doing it, but not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I want to make a bit of a difference and do something. That 2 grand that I put into that well, I would have done in bars over a year, no problem, absolutely no problem at all. So if I can make a bit of a difference in that way, that's great. And then I want my kids to understand. I want them to build something for long term, rather than it just being them going there, seeing it, going to the school. I want them to build relationships with the kids that are less fortunate. And this is the thing, it's all about people understanding what they've got, because in this day and age we live everybody preaches about how it's doom and gloom and everything else. We live in the best times we've ever lived. Medicines are better, people are living longer, there's so much available, life is, life is good, but the media portrays it as being so bad. So
well, there are many things that haven't improved, but we won't go off topic too much.
No.
We could you and I could go on forever about some of that stuff, I think. I don't think I'm going to ask you that question. I don't think it's right topic. So, have you got any tips on how somebody might get started with this if they're sober curious, which I think is the current buzzword? I mean, you obviously mentioned the app and there's a book. I mean, outside of that, is there any things that you
talk to other people that have packed in drinking? I mean, there are so many people that have done it now. You'd be surprised. I mean, it depends on people's levels of where they are with drink and what they think. I've never felt a need to go to any kind of meetings or AA or because I wasn't that. I wasn't, So I think definitely talking to friends, talking to people. Get yourself a hobby or something to do. I mean, I have a lot of things that I can do or find a new focus. I think the main thing is that you've just got to really want to, want something different in life. I think that's the main kind of thing. So, but I can't recommend that app enough. I mean, if you're into any kind of headspacey meditation type, or even if you're not, try it, because half an hour a day of just listening to this very relaxing voice, and it improves your productivity, even if it's just a meditation.
Right, okay. So alright, that sounds good. So even if you're not fully committed to giving up alcohol just at this minute, it's good for other reasons and it might have the benefit of getting you there anyway. That's good tips, thank you for that. I think we sort of talked about this a little bit, and do you think it's necessary to completely stop, or can it just be moderated? Is it just, do people just need to kind of have an awareness for themselves?
Again, that's specific to a person, and it's it depends on who you ask and whatever. You have to know that alcohol stays in your bloodstream for a long time. It takes a good few weeks to get out of there. So even if you're only having one drink a week, it's always in your bloodstream. So I don't know. I think that's specific. I mean, anybody. It depends how much people are drinking as well. If people are drinking, going home and tanking 2 bottles of wine.
I was going to say, wait, what's really bad? Because I need to measure for myself.
I mean, again, I know people that have a nip of whiskey every single night, that have done all of their lives, that are
probably okay.
I'm dead. We have a mutual friend that we won't mention who it is, who I know every single night he has a whiskey, a little nip of whiskey, not a lot, and he's got more years on us, and quite a lot more years on me, and you would never tell. And he's fit as a fiddle, and so again, this isn't about anybody else and what they should do and what they shouldn't. I think if you're drinking too much, and that too much could be, 2 glasses a night, could be 2 bottles a night. And I think if you're drinking too much...
Well, that was the question I didn't ask you. So, I was going to ask you, what are the signs you think people should look for, or if they should consider giving up alcohol? But I didn't want to ask, and I thought that's a bit too specific. But
I only think that if you're happy having a drink and you're enjoying yourself and you're not making an absolute tit of yourself, then great. Yeah. I know I've made some, I've made some wrong decisions when I've been drinking. I've said things that I shouldn't say when I've been drinking, and not in a bad way, but at the same time, I mean, if you think that you're doing things when you're drunk that you shouldn't be doing, which most of us do, if you really look at it and you think, would I behave like that if I wasn't in that condition, then maybe that's a sign that you shouldn't do it. Or maybe you like behaving like that. Some people,
it's true. Very good. Okay, well, I think we've probably. I mean, any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to say about the charity or your company or anything like that? And we've covered most of it pretty well, haven't we?
Yeah, no, I just think that yeah, everyone should definitely go out and sign on to my service Rights Hub.
Okay, give us the website.
www.rightshub.net.
Very good. There you go. You've heard it here first, perhaps. To my listeners, thank you for listening. As ever, I welcome all feedback, comments and suggestions for future shows. You can contact me via Twitter. My handle is @AlexBranson. Just send me a message, podcast DM, and I will follow you back and we can have a dialogue. Or head to my website, which is www.abcmusic.co, and you'll find a contacts page there with my email address on. Thank you for listening.